listen to this man. He got some good news for you. Hey, everybody, gather near. The doctor's in the house, so lend him your ear. The things he can say might even make your day. He might even help your pain go away. The doctor is in the house. The doctor is in the house. Let the doctor know what's bothering you. I'm sure he can tell you just what to do. The doctor is in the house.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the doctor is in the house. Welcome, everybody, to our first docuseries. I hope you enjoy it. It is my first try at this, and I wanted to do this for a lot of reasons, because I didn't think a single podcast, a video, or an article could do it justice. I wanted clarity, not just sound bites. I wanted mechanisms, not slogans. And most importantly, I want to empower people who are willing to take responsibility for their health, but who deserve better intel than they have been getting. So my goal is to educate, demystify, challenge assumptions, offer practical remediation strategies, and empower you. So this docu-series will be 3 parts. Today will be the paradox of a healthy decline. What do I mean by that? Why I want to talk about why people who are disciplined still get sick, why the body can be degrading even as the lab studies say you're normal, and why nobody technically dies of old age. We'll delve more into that with our second episode, which we will title The Silent Collapse. And then we will have a final episode where we'll discuss why the system is failing us, but more importantly, what we can do about it. And in that episode, we will have Professor, I should say, Brian Peskin, the world expert on seed oils and parent essential oils and omega-3 and omega-6, and he'll wrap it up. He's really good. I think you will enjoy that. So let's get on with today's episode, which I told you we are calling the paradox of a healthy decline. So if things don't always go the way it's planned, it's because this is our first shot at this. Okay, let's begin. So you're doing everything right, ladies and gentlemen, but it's still not enough. And the title may make you uncomfortable, and it was meant to be that way, because this series is for you. You're following all the rules, but you're still losing ground. Talking about people who eat clean, exercise consistently, take their medications, show up for their appointments, check their numbers, and then they are told everything is normal. And yet, year after year, they feel weaker, foggier, less stable, and less resilient. This is the demographic modern medicine struggles with. Not the non-compliant, not the disinterested, not the irresponsible, but the disciplined. And today's episode is about a paradox that medicine rarely confronts. Why health, conscious, motivated, proactive individuals are still declining. And to understand this, we cannot look only at the individual. We have to examine the environment that individual is living in, the inputs their biology is exposed to, and the gaps in how we define health itself. So what are we talking about? In clinical practice, there's a category of patient that confuses doctors more than any other. The compliant, informed, and motivated patient. They do exactly as they're told. They change their diet, they get in their steps, they show up for every test and follow-up appointment, they track their numbers, they monitor their symptoms. They're the ideal patient from a medical standpoint, and what? And yet they do not improve. Or if they do, the improvement is temporary and the underlying decline continues. These patients describe the same pattern again and again. Fatigue becomes chronic. Recovery takes longer than it used to. Sleep that becomes lighter and more fragmented. Muscle strength that fades without explanation. Brain fog that is subtle but persistent. Mood fluctuations that appear from nowhere. Digestive changes without dietary cause. Joint pain without injury. Blood sugar instability without lifestyle change. None of these complaints are dramatic enough to trigger alarms. They do not lead to hospitalizations. They rarely produce abnormal standard lab results. They simply erode quality of life quietly and consistently. This is the point where medicine offers drugs and says, this is normal aging. This is normal aging. Well, what do the labs miss? Why are they saying that? Except this isn't normal aging. It is not, because aging by itself does not explain sudden fatigue in previously strong people. Aging does not explain sharp changes in sleep, changes in metabolic flexibility or thinking. Aging does not explain why the most compliant patients often feel the worst. Something else is happening, something upstream from disease itself, and most people do not recognize it until the decline becomes obvious. By then, the mitochondrial function has dropped, inflammation has become chronic, and physiological resilience is eroded. This is not aging, ladies and gentlemen. It is a system failure designed as aging. So, why normal labs don't mean health? One of the most misleading phrases in modern health is your labs are normal. So then I say, normal compared to whom? Normal medicine is a statistical construct. It reflects population averages, and the average American is overweight, insulin resistant, chronically inflamed, sleep deprived, stressed, sedentary, and heavily medicated. Sounds like George Carlin. If that is the baseline, then being normal is not a victory. Normal does not mean optimal. Normal does not mean resilient. Normal does not mean protected from decline. Most routine labs are not built to measure early dysfunction. They are designed, listen to this, to detect end-stage disease, disease that has already been present for 5, 10, or 20 years. You don't suddenly get sick. You don't suddenly develop a tumor. It's been in the works for years and years before. Medicine rarely, if ever, measures cellular energy efficiency, mitochondrial output, membrane oxidation, inflammatory microsignaling, neurotransmitter shifts, microbiome, the, the germs in your intestine, microbiome, in your mouth. Oh, they're all over. We can't live without them. Microbiome diversity does not measure endotoxic burden, oxidative capacity, metabolic flexibility, or recovery kinetics. Does not measure any of that. That's why they don't pick it up early. The metrics I just enumerated determine whether a person is thriving or degenerating, but we do not measure them, so we do not manage them. Instead, we wait for something catastrophic enough to show up on a blood test. So what happens when everything looks normal on paper, but the patient feels terrible? Well, the system has a response for that. Oh, you're just getting older, or it's just in your head. No, sorry to say, it is not in their head. It isn't. It is in their mitochondria, in their membranes, their immune signaling, their light exposure, their microbiome, their toxin load, their stress hormones, and their circadian biology. The problem is not the patient. The problem is that our testing methodology is outdated. We are using tools built for diagnoses, not for prevention, and certainly not for optimization. We are building tools not to pick up early disease, early or what is causing, what can cause disease later in life. We're not picking that up. So when someone asks, how can I have normal labs and still feel so bad? Well, It's a simple answer because decline starts long before it becomes measurable by using our standard labs. So that's an important distinction I want to bring out. Aging is not the problem. Degeneration is. As wrote about, there is no line on a death certificate that is signable by death by aging. Degeneration is there. So remember, aging is not the problem. Degeneration is. So aging is simply the passage of time, huh? Degeneration, however, is the loss of function over time. Time does not break your mitochondria. Time does not oxidize your cell membranes. Time does not dysregulate inflammation. Time does not destroy your microbiome. Time does not create insulin resistance. These changes are driven by environmental inputs, nutritional quality, light exposure patterns, environmental toxins, pharmaceutical loads, chronic stress, chemical burdens. You cannot leave this out in this day and age. Electromagnetic exposure, structural biology, and microbiome integrity. But here's the thing: when we confuse aging with degeneration, then we normalize disease. And we say, oh, well, we might as well accept our brain fog, our joint pain, our fatigue, our sleep disruption, our osteopenia. We're just getting older. But this mindset is dangerous, ladies and gentlemen, because when decline is normalized, intervention is delayed. And when intervention is delayed, reversibility drops. So aging and degeneration are not the same. And the drivers of this degeneration are what you see on the screen. So aging is not the cause. Do not accept any explanation. This is because of your age. Very dangerous mindset. This is why we have 70-year-olds who look and move like 90-year-olds and 90-year-olds who look and move like 60-year-olds. It's not age, it's biology. And biology responds to inputs. Change the input, you change the trajectory. So why doing everything right is often incomplete? Now we confront this. It's an uncomfortable truth. A person can follow every mainstream medical guidance perfectly and still deteriorate. No, not because they're doing anything wrong, but because they're missing entire categories of biology that modern health advice ignores. Mainstream guidance. Let's see if I have a slide on that. Mainstream guidance focuses on calories, steps, cholesterol, blood sugar, blood pressure, and body weight. These metrics matter, but they are not the whole story because almost no attention is given to cellular energy production, mitochondrial turnover, membrane lipid composition. And boy, stay tuned for episode 3. This is going to blow your socks off. Oxidative stress at a tissue level, subclinical inflammation, toxin clearance pathways, microbiome function, autophagy, lymphatic drainage. That's from our brain. That's how our brain detoxifies. Light spectrum exposure. That's a whole another series where now we're just exposed to certain frequencies of light and not the full spectrum. And environmental chemical load. Environmental chemical load. So why does this all matter? Because you can eat well and still oxidize, exercise and still get inflammation, meditate and still lose mitochondrial capacity, follow guidelines and still develop neurodegenerative diseases. And why, you say? Because guidelines are designed to manage population and not optimize individuals. Let me say that again. Guidelines that your physicians and healthcare providers are using are designed to manage populations, not optimize individuals, and populations are declining biologically faster than ever. So when someone says, I'm doing everything right and I'm still declining, the answer is because what counts is everything has changed. So if aging isn't the cause and discipline isn't enough, what is actually driving the driving the decline of the healthiest people. In episode 2, we uncover that hidden biological answer in the biological drivers that are quietly sabotaging even the most health-conscious individuals. We'll be talking not about fringe theories, not about alternative speculations, but core cellular environmental mechanism that modern medicine really addresses. You won't hear your most healthcare providers even talk about oxidized fats, genetically modified agriculture, farmed fish, and microplastics. Well, that's a favorite topic of mine. These PFAS and endocrine disruptors, that's the plastics and the Teflon coatings, the artificial sweeteners I've written about, erythritol and other artificial sweeteners, microbiome disruption, mitochondrial stress, circadian rhythm dysfunction. So this series is not about blame. I just want to bring clarity to the issue so you can recognize it. So it's about helping disciplined people reclaim their resilience without trying to rewind the clock. So if you have felt like you're doing everything right and still losing ground, we'll get more into all of these reasons in this next episode. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is Dr. Ron, unfiltered, uncensored. And I hope you enjoy what's coming on. This is the first time for me doing this, so if it seems a little bit out of tune, well, I'm sorry about it, but we'll get better as we add these docuseries. I think it's a way that I can delve deeper into specific areas that I want to talk about. So thank you for listening. If you need to reach me, you can do that at docronradio@gmail.com. Or you can read my writings or listen to my podcast on docronradio.substack.com. There you can become a subscriber and be the first to know when a docuseries is going to be posted. Yes, it's free to join. So with that, I have a good friend named Freddie who has recorded these songs for me. So that'll be it for today. Thank you for tuning in.
Hey everybody, Dr. Ron's finished for today. I hope you got some good wisdom for what the man had to say. If it's all about good health, he's the man you got to see. He has a lot more answers for you. So tune in next week when the doctor is in the house. Or when the doctor is in the house. And let the doctor know what's bothering you. When the doctor is in the house, the doctor is in the house, the doctor is in the house. Let the doctor know what's bothering you. I'm sure he can tell you just what to do. The doctor is in the house, the doctor is in the house. Let the doctor know what's bothering you. When the doctor is in the house,